The Mariana Trench is home to some of the weirdest and most unique creatures on Earth, each adapted to life in one of the harshest environments imaginable. We're kicking things off with the toothed sea devil, a truly bizarre anglerfish. This little creature is a real nightmare. Like you need me to tell you that looking at it. The female grows to about 13 centimeters or 5 inches long, and she doesn't have the usual fishing lure that most anglerfish do. Instead, she has a longer, sleeker body that helps her hunt more actively. But the really creepy part is her set of teeth. These teeth sprout from all these odd angles, crisscrossing inside, even outside her mouth, almost like they're stitched together. It just looks insane. Each tooth ends in a hook too, and they can move independently of each other, which helps her trap her prey. It's not clear exactly what she's hunting down there because scientists haven't observed any feeding behavior yet. These things just live so deep down, specimens are too rare to figure out what's actually in her stomach. As for the males, they have a glowing lure that they use to attract prey. Once something gets close enough, it snaps its massive jaws around the poor creature, sometimes even eating animals that are bigger than itself. The males also do something really strange too. They use their large sinus cavities to track down a female by scent, and when they find her, they latch onto her with their teeth and stay there for the rest of their life. Over time, their skin fuses with hers, and most of their body shrivels up while they feed off her BLOOD. It's a pretty crazy, creepy way to live. Then there's the Dumbo octopus, which looks like an adorable Disney creature compared to the nightmare fuel we just covered, hence the Dumbo reference. These little guys are pretty strange though. They look like they have big floppy ears, but those are actually fins. These octopuses don't swim like the others. They live super deep in the ocean, like really deep, over 13,000 feet down. Instead of swimming around, they use their tentacles to crawl along the seafloor. For food, they munch on small crustaceans, worms, or whatever drifts by. They don't bother chewing though. They're more like underwater vacuums, sucking up their meals whole. Because they live so deep, we don't know a ton about them. It's hard to get down that far. So who knows what else there is to learn about these cute, floppy creatures. The telescope octopus is a rare and mysterious creature that lives deep in the ocean, typically between 500 and 6,500 feet below the surface. This little octopus grows to about 8 inches long, and its arms make up almost half of that length. It's related to the glass octopus, another deep sea species, but has some pretty unique features that set it apart. Unlike most octopuses that move around on the seafloor, the telescope octopus prefers to drift with the ocean currents. It spends most of its time suspended in the water column, hanging vertically rather than swimming horizontally like most sea creatures. This helps it stay out of sight predators since its position in the water is hard to detect. On top of that, its translucent body makes it nearly invisible. It's so see-through that it doesn't cast any shadows, making it even harder for predators to spot. But this transparency isn't just good for hiding, it also helps the octopus sneak up on its prey who can't see it coming. Probably the most recognizable part of this creature are its eyes. Unlike most octopuses which have round eyes, the telescope octopus has long, tube-like eyes that stick out from its head. They're unmovable stalks and can rotate, giving it a wide range of vision. It's the only known octopus species with eyes that work like a telescope, allowing it to spot both predators and prey from a distance. The rest of its body is also pretty unusual and has delicate webbing between its arms and white suckers along each one. This, combined with its nearly invisible body, give it a kind of ghostly appearance as it drifts through the deep sea. Scientists don't know a lot about this octopus because it's so hard to access, but they think its transparent body and strange eyes may be due to the fact that it stays in a sort of permanent juvenile state. This means it may never fully mature, living most of its life in a form similar to larva. Next, let's talk about the Barreleye fish. This fish is seriously one of the weirdest creatures you'll ever see. It has a see-through head, and it's got these glowing green orbs that look like eyes, but here's the thing, those eyes are actually inside its head, under a see-through section of skin, a bit like an astronaut helmet. Super strange, right? This fish lives out in the Mariana Trench, deep where sunlight doesn't really reach. Its tubular eyes face upwards, and they can rotate, so if it was to look up and find some food floating by, it can just swivel swivel its eyes upwards. As for its body, it's pretty sleek and streamlined, built for deep sea life. These fish were first discovered back in 1939, but it wasn't easy to study them because when they brought them up to the surface, the pressure change would just crush their bodies. But now with remotely controlled submersibles, we can study them much more easily. Now let's talk about Osedax, aka the zombie worm. These things sound like something from a sci-fi movie, and honestly, they kinda look like it too. Also known as bone worms or bone-eating worms, these creatures are nature's cleanup crew at the very bottom of the ocean. They feed on the remains of dead whales that sink to the ocean floor. When a whale dies, its body becomes a huge buffet for different sea creatures, including zombie worms. Instead of mouths, these worms have a special trick, if you want to call it that. They secrete acid that can dissolve bone-eating acid. Then they burrow into the whale bones, which is how they get their food. And here's where it gets even cooler. Osedax worms have a partnership with bacteria. The bacteria help break down the bones, and in return, the worms offer the bacteria a nice little home. These worms come in all sorts of colors, and scientists are still discovering new types.
Number 5, the stout black smelt. This deep sea dweller has also been dubbed the owlfish due to its eyes. In comparison to its body, its eyes are like pretty massive, and we can guess why. The stout black smelt uses its massive eyes to help capture any light it can lay its eyes on. The eyes have cones in them, have like narrow cones that help them suck in as much light as possible, kind of like a vacuum for light. It is a feature they definitely need while they continue to live at depths of over 6,600 meters. Not too much else is known about this little guy, save for the fact it definitely can't stand against a squid. Here's a video of this poor fish losing a battle with a squid. Check it out.
Owlfish are predators that feed on small crustaceans and jellies. They have enormous eyes to help them find their food in the dim light at great depths.
Number 4, the anglerfish / the nope fish. This is the most terrifyingly ugly fish in the world. There are over 200 species of anglerfish that dominate the midnight zone with their terrifying good looks. Each are similar dark brown and gray in color with massive heads and mouths decorated in sharp translucent teeth. The largest species can reach up to 3.3 feet in length or significantly smaller, less than a foot. They are the horror movie villain of the deep with tricky bioluminescent lures. Thanks to these horrifying creatures, Finding Nemo almost had a grimmer ending. Despite their size, the mouth of the anglerfish is massive and, like a python, can stretch wide enough to consume prey twice their size. Considering there's absolutely no light, it's cold and lonely, I guess it makes sense that they are a little angry. One can't afford to make friends out of fish when their next meal could be days away, so fish aren't friends, they are food. Number 3, Dumbo octopus. I love it so much. Weird cute is the best combination. Okay, fight me. I'll just show you a picture of this. Meet the only cute thing to live in such a dark place, the Dumbo octopus. The Dumbo octopus, as you can guess, resembles Disney's adorable Dumbo elephant, as it has big fins that look like ears on either side of its head and just like whoop flings around. These fins help this floating boopity boop steer through currents. They try so hard. While they vary in color and size, they usually reach around 20 to 30 centimeters, so they're really small. While some have also been found to almost reach 6 feet, so that's like one you can hug. Sadly, you won't come across them in shallow water, as these cute water babies are only found around 400 to 4,800 meters below the surface. Since where they live is so dark, they don't need an ink sac to defend themselves, so they don't have one. But honestly, who would want to attack this little guy? Look at those eyes. Puss in Boots can take a seat. Number 2, the tripod fish. Can we talk about how this fish looks like they are an alien standing on the moon? Kinda, sorta, yeah? Anyways, yes, that fish is literally standing on the sand. The tripod fish is yet another fish that has adapted in a strange way to live in the deepest, darkest depths of over 6,000 meters. Another tiny but mighty example, it can only grow to about 3 centimeters long, while its long, bony fins can extend to a meter, allowing it to stand. Researchers estimate that fluid is pumped into them, which allows them to become rigid so they can actually prop themselves up. If you're wondering why they want to be taller, ask yourself that question the next time you purchase a pair of heels. By standing tall, it's got the best vantage point to capture prey such as small crustaceans. As they float in the current, the tripod fish can just open their mouths and catch them like snowflakes. However, it is practically blind due to its habitat, so its fins sense vibrations to anticipate predators, so otherwise it just kind of waits there for food. Number 1, last but not least, the Mariana snailfish. Though it doesn't look like it could withstand pressures of 1,000 feet below, the Mariana snailfish proves yet again the age-old phrase of never judge a book by its cover. Meet the deepest fish in the ocean, which thrives at 8,000 feet below sea level. Though they look small, fragile, and slightly translucent, these little guys are actually the top predator at this depth. With few predators, they get the cream of the crop when it comes to food down there. They kind of look like white fat goldfish with a long narrow tail. Its flesh is so translucent you can even see its liver through the skin. Compared to some of the other creatures on this list, it definitely doesn't scream robust survivor, but has adapted in a new clever way scientists are still trying to understand.
Back in 2014, scientists recording sounds deep in the Mariana Trench picked up something that left them feeling pretty uneasy. It was a bizarre noise about 3 seconds long, starting with a deep moaning and then shifting into a high-pitched metallic screech. Take a listen. Pretty strange, and the researchers thought so too. They had no idea what they were listening to. Clearly, it wasn't just some background ocean noise, it had a pattern, which meant something was making it on purpose. But what? Well, when a clip of the sound hit the internet, people started talking about alien signals, giant deep-sea cryptids, and conspiracies like top-secret underwater military technology. And for a while, nobody had a clue, but after studying the sounds for years, researchers actually figured it out. Turns out it was a type of minke whale call, something scientists now call the Western Pacific bio-twang. According to marine acoustics expert Sharon Newkirk, the low-frequency moaning part is typical of baleen whales, and it's that kind of twangy sound that makes it really unique. Basically, these whales have their own weird way of talking that nobody had ever heard before, but this call is unlike anything else from known whale species. They still don't fully understand why these whales make this sound or what they're saying to each other. And since it was picked up at some of the deepest points in the ocean, who knows what else is lurking down there, making noises we haven't discovered yet. The Mariana Trench is like an alien world right here on Earth, and every time scientists go down there, they find something new. On one recent expedition, researchers discovered over 100 new species. In one expedition, they found that many creatures nobody had ever documented before, just casually hanging out in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Some of the new species included strange deep-sea corals, massive glass sponges that look like eerie underwater sculptures, and a bunch of strange crustaceans. One especially weird find was called a squat lobster, a weird little thing with spindly legs, spiky shells, and big buggy eyes. Aaron Easton, one of the lead scientists on the expedition, said these findings just blew us away. It was almost baffling to discover so many new creatures. In some areas, we were finding species we'd never encountered before every few meters, end quote. And that's pretty wild, that almost every time we explore the deep, deep ocean, we realize just how little we actually know about it. Some of these creatures have been down there for millions of years, completely unknown to us. And it makes you wonder, if we're still finding new species now, how many more are still out there? Maybe there's even something really big that hasn't been discovered yet. Alright, so microbes don't sound as exciting as giant sea monsters, but hear me out. What scientists have found at the bottom of the Mariana Trench might be proof that life can survive in places we never thought possible. Deep down in the trench, a place with no light, insane pressure, and barely any food, researchers discovered entire communities of bacteria and microbes. And not only are these things surviving, they're consuming stuff researchers just didn't think they would be. More on that in a sec though. These tiny organisms mainly eat organic material that drifts down from the upper ocean, and in doing so, they play a huge part in the ecosystem. That's pretty well known, but what's really crazy is that some of these microbes have developed ways to break down chemicals that are usually toxic to life. They've actually found bacteria down there that can digest oil and plastic, meaning that nature might already have a built-in way to clean up pollution, which is crazy. Some researchers also think studying these microbes could give us clues about how life started on Earth, and maybe even how it could exist on other planets, because if something can survive in the extreme hellscape of the Mariana Trench, then who's to say that life couldn't exist in the oceans of Europa or on some distant exoplanet. Most of the time, deep-sea creatures are pretty tiny. The extreme pressure and the lack of food just means there's not much room for anything especially big to grow, but that's what makes the discovery of supergiant amphipods so weird. Amphipods are these shrimp-like scavengers that live at the bottom of the ocean, usually no bigger than your fingernail, but in the Mariana Trench, scientists found giant versions of these things, nearly a foot long. That's 10 times bigger than a normal amphipod. So imagine a shrimp the size of a small cat. Weird. Researchers first spotted these monsters back in 2012. They sent a trap down to the trench and pulled one up, and they were pretty surprised. Again, you go down that deep, it's more rare to find animals that grow that big. Yet there they were. Scientists still aren't entirely sure why they get so massive, but one theory is deep sea gigantism, a phenomenon where certain animals actually grow much larger in deep, cold environments. Whatever the reason though, these things are proof that the deep ocean is still full of surprises, and some of them might be a lot bigger than we expect. You'd think that the deepest part of the ocean, somewhere barely explored by humans, would be untouched by pollution, right? Well, no. Turns out, we've managed to trash even the Mariana Trench. When explorers sent submersibles down to Challenger Deep, the very bottom of the trench, they found plastic waste. One of the first things seen in the footage, a freaking plastic bag, just drifting 36,000 feet below the surface. Scientists have also found candy wrappers, aluminum cans, an old beer bottle. I mean, it's not necessarily surprising, but just let that sink in. We've dumped so much garbage and crap into the ocean that even in the deepest, most isolated place on Earth, it's still not safe from it. It's not just an eyesore either. Scientists have found microplastics deep inside sea creatures, meaning this pollution is making its way into the food chain. And since plastic doesn't break down naturally, it's likely that every new expedition will find more and more of it piling up. If anything, this is just a reminder that no matter how far away or untouched a place seems, human impact is everywhere. We just gotta grow more of those plastic-eating microbes.
Coming in at number 5 at our halfway mark, we have comb jellies. Comb jellies are one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen in my life, and that is mostly due to their combs. The combs I'm talking about are actually plates of fused cilia, which help these jellies propel themselves through the deep waters of the Mariana Trench like their own little boat oars. There are other creatures who also have combs, but these jellies are the largest creatures with them. Why these jellies are so beautiful is because the combs create a sort of rainbow effect because of the light being scattered in different directions because the cilia are moving. Comb jellies only have one pair of tentacles, but sometimes it appears to be more, but that is because their tentacles can branch out. These jellies don't sting, and instead their tentacles are used as a sort of fishing line to help them catch their prey.
Coming in at number 4 is James Cameron. Wait, hold on a sec. Olivia, did I just say Academy Award winning director James Cameron was found at the bottom of the Marianas Trench?
You did!
I did! Yes, I did. So dumb. Oh my god, hashtag fire Dewey. Along with making one of his most famous movies ever about an old boat, it was also his lifelong dream of exploring the depths of the Marianas Trench. This guy just can't get enough of the underwater life, and honestly, I can't blame him because it looks super cool. Anyway, back in 2012, Cameron with the team of scientists visited the trench at a depth of 11 kilometers as well. Wait, isn't that the exact same depth as Victor Vescovo? Yeah, kinda. Vescovo was able to reach just a bit further than Cameron, so this time the Oscar goes to Victor. Sorry, Jimbo. But Cameron also helped design a 24 underwater submersible sub called the Deep Sea Challenger in the shape of Titanic. Just kidding, that would be insensitive. The windows on the sub were 9.5 inches thick, so they could withstand the immense pressure. While down there, they discovered 68 new species, mostly of bacteria, but also a couple invertebrates as well. So there you go. James Cameron is just not a one-trick pony.
In our number 3 spot today, we have the Barreleye. I can talk about creatures that look otherworldly all day, and while the Mariana Trench is full of them, the Barreleye is definitely nearing the top of that list. These guys are also known as spookfish, and they have these large, protruding, telescopic eyes that are enclosed in a transparent dome of soft tissue. That was a long way of saying they have a see-through head, and it is so weird to look at. These guys can't be taken out of their deep sea environment because they are unable to withstand the change in pressure, so for a while after their initial discovery, predatory, the only way people who had seen them in the deep sea could show anyone else what they looked like was through drawings. Imagine trying to tell someone that you found a fish with a see-through head, but you have no evidence to prove it. These guys are usually found motionless, just kind of floating in one spot, as they don't tend to move around a bunch, at a depth of around 600 to 800 meters in the ocean.
Coming in at our number 2 spot is the unknown. There is still plenty of unknown left in the Marianas Trench. Countless people have now explored down there, but the water is just above freezing and it is extremely dark, and the pressure is an immense 8 tons per square inch. Holy burst eardrums, Batman! With all the tech that we have today, we are still doing all that we can to find new ways of exploring the ocean depths for longer and with more visibility. It's hard to say just how much we have really uncovered when we can only go down there for so long and with just our little rovers, subs, flashlights, and Hollywood directors. Either way, I can't wait to see where scientists take us on this next one, and who knows, maybe one day I will get my confirmed sea monster that I've been waiting for my entire freaking life.
In our number 1 spot today, we have the predatory tunicate. The predatory tunicate is like the Venus flytrap of the deep sea. These guys are one of the most unique creatures I've ever learned about personally, because I don't know any other animal that is like them. They start out life kind of like tadpoles, and then they swim until they find their perfect spot, either along a canyon wall or on the sea floor. Once they've found their spot, they plant themselves in place using a natural adhesive that they produce. Once planted, they will undergo a huge change, and this is where they will stay for the rest of their lives. They're super picky about where exactly they make their homes, because it will be where they stay, and because they need to make sure that both the chemicals in the water in that area as well as the temperature of the water is just right. Like the 3 little bears of the deep sea. Unfortunately, if these guys get moved from the location they choose to make their home, they will die, so it is imperative that they are left alone. They basically wait for food to drift on by, and like a Venus flytrap, when they get their meal, their mouths will snap shut until they're done digesting. The predatory tunicate is a point of study in the medical world because they actually have been known to help with some more serious medical conditions, which is always an incredible thing.
The Barreleye fish is a very unique but somewhat eerie looking creature found in the Mariana Trench. Its nickname is the spookfish, and you can probably see why. At first glance, it kind of looks like its eyes are on the front, but they aren't. It has a transparent head, and through this transparent head you can see this pair of glowing orbs. Those are actually its eyes. This may be one of the most unique looking animals I've ever seen, certainly the strangest looking fish. The Barreleye is a deep sea dweller living in the dark depths where sunlight barely reaches, like the Mariana Trench. And they have see-through heads. Inside their heads are big tubular eyes that point upward, not something you see every day. If that's not weird enough though, those eyes can actually rotate. So if the Barreleye fish wants to check something out above it, it can swivel its eyes up. They usually do this to catch prey drifting down from above. Now, as for the rest of their body, it's pretty streamlined. They're not exactly speed demons, but they've got a sleek design for life in the deep sea. These fish were first discovered in 1939, but they were hard to study because they live so deep under the water, their bodies would actually collapse because of the change in pressure when they were brought up to the surface. But now that we have remotely controlled deep sea vehicles, they've become a lot easier to observe. There are a lot of large animals lurking in the Mariana Trench, and this is because of a phenomenon known as abyssal gigantism. This is where creatures living way down in the deep sea, like the Mariana Trench, grow way bigger than their counterparts up near the surface. One example is the giant amphipods that have been discovered down there. If you don't know what amphipods are, they look kind of shrimp-like, but these giant ones can hit a whopping 13 inches in length, which is massive compared to the shallower water versions. And some other deep sea dwellers down in the trenches, like certain types of jellyfish and squid, also follow this trend of growing way larger than their counterparts near the surface. As to why creatures can get so big in the trench, some theories are that it's because of the extreme conditions down there. The pressure at the bottom of the ocean is insane, and the cold and dark environment might be making the creatures evolve to become giants, a way of adapting to the tough life in the deep sea by becoming supersized. The telescope octopus is a ghostly looking animal. It's pretty much entirely translucent, aside from its eyes, which are strangely tubular. They protrude out of its body almost like telescopes. This allows for wider peripheral vision so it can avoid predators and locate prey. Even cooler though, the telescope octopus has this nifty trick where it can almost disappear. If it feels threatened or just wants to be sneaky. It can wrap its arms around its body, turning it into this smooth, gelatinous blob type thing, blending into the dark background of the deep sea. Even though they have this ghostly, translucent look where you can see the insides of their heads, there's something beautiful about these creatures and the way they just peacefully glide through the water. It's mesmerizing. Next we have the Osedax, which is a pretty cool creature but kinda nasty at the same time. On top of that, they look like something from another planet. They have a few nicknames: bone worms, zombie worms, and bone-eating worms. Pretty ominous by the sounds of it, but these guys are basically underwater recyclers. These worms have adapted to bore into the skeletons of dead animals, particularly whale carcasses, to access the fatty lipids locked inside. They were first discovered at a depth of 10,000 feet. They've evolved to thrive in the extreme conditions of the sea floor. Their main source of food is the remains of dead whales and other animal carcasses that sink to the ocean floor. The success of zombie worms relies on teamwork, with the females taking on the majority of tasks. Using acidic secretions, they drill into the bones of dead animals, freeing up all those valuable lipids. This involves a symbiotic relationship with bacteria as well that aid in the digestion and processing of these released lipids. This allows the zombie worms to make a living in the deep sea environment where food sources are pretty scarce. Next on the list we have the goblin shark. These have to be the most horrific looking sharks in existence, right? I mean, goblin sharks, it's really just a perfect name for them. Just look at that. I'm like, yeah, that's a water goblin. They have elongated, flattened snouts, almost like they have swords sticking out of their faces. They have a pinkish white coloration, and their skin is actually kind of translucent. You can almost see their blood vessels underneath. Combine this with their long, sharp teeth that just jut out at odd angles, and you've got a face that only their mother could love, and even that's a bit of a stretch. Goblin sharks also have the ability to thrust their jaws forward to snatch their prey, almost like the xenomorph in Alien. Take a look at this.
Coming in at our halfway point at number 5, we have the frilled shark. Remember the puffy shirt from Seinfeld with all of the frills? Well, Jerry looked pretty terrible in it, and this shark looks terrifying in it. Well, with them, not in it, because let's face it, the shark isn't wearing a shirt, but either way, I'm sure it could still make the shirt look cooler than Jerry Seinfeld. Anyway, this shark has the body of an eel with the head of probably one of the scariest creatures on Earth. It has 6 frilly gills on the side of its head to no one's surprise, and can measure up to 6 feet in length. That's longer than me. It also has 20 rows of razor-sharp, trident-shaped teeth that will tear right through any flesh it can sink its teeth into. They usually live in waters around 4,000 feet deep, and the odd time humans catch one and bring them to the surface, but please don't do this. 1, because don't go near these crazy things, and 2, because these creatures can't handle life above as they are used to the great underwater pressure. Any brought to the surface will almost die immediately. So remember, frilled sharks are friends, not food. Okay, we have had dragon and demon in the names of some of our underwater creatures today. Can you guess one more that we might haven't have said? No? Well, how about goblin? That's right, coming in at number 4, we have the frilled shark's trusty companion, the goblin shark. If you get one look at these things, you will understand exactly why these things are called goblin sharks. They have a large protruding snout, then underneath that is a protruding jaw of razor-sharp teeth. Honestly, once again, to put it simply, these guys are just straight up ugly and scary. They also aren't the normal gray color that most sharks are. They are instead colored with a pinkish hue. In case these guys aren't scary enough, you will be happy to know that these things grow to be 18 feet in length. But you probably won't ever see one, as they live at depths of 3,000 feet and go deeper the older they get. Other than that, there is not much known about these creatures because of how deep they live, but also because of how freaking scary they are. Yeah, Dewey ain't going anywhere near that thing. Starting us off in our top 3, at number 3 is the Dumbo octopus. I know, the thing doesn't sound or seem that scary. After all, it's named after a freaking Disney cartoon, I get it, but these crazy looking things are known to eat its prey whole. They only grow to be about a foot in length, but if they can swallow its prey whole, I don't want to imagine how big its prey can be. Because maybe they even eat like snakes, who knows? Anyway, these guys live at depths of 9,800 to 13,000 feet and are actually the deepest dwelling octopus known to science. That's pretty cool. So while these guys actually look kinda cute, I'm sure they are quite the scare for some deep water fish, as well as who knows if they evolved to have larger cousins at the very bottom of the sea. Who knows? Yeah, I don't. At our number 2 spot, we have the cousin of Dumbo, the telescope octopus. These things are so weird and also have have a completely transparent body. Well, almost, so I guess that makes it more translucent, but I don't know. Anyway, these weird looking octopi live at depths of 6,500 feet and they don't swim horizontally either. They actually just float vertically, making it harder for deep sea predators to spot it. It also has webbing between its tentacles, giving it a ghostly-like shape. And one last thing that makes it kinda creepy is that these creatures have wicked eyes. In its head are two protruding eyeballs that can fully rotate and keep an eye out for its deep water predators. What kind of predators? Well, let's check out our number 1 spot. And finally, coming in at number 1 spot is sea monsters! Okay. Have sea monsters actually been found in the deep waters of the Marianas Trench? No. But could there be? Absolutely. I know I have gone on and on about how little our oceans have been explored, but one of those specific places in our oceans is the Marianas Trench. It is so deep that no human on Earth can reach its depths fully, and even if they did, they would need an incredibly powerful pressurized submarine. So who the heck knows what else is swimming around at the bottom of our oceans? I mean, they said the giant squid was a legend and it turned out to be real, so anything goes, really.
Number 10, the frilled shark. This is one of the most stealthiest sharks in the sea. This shark is so stealthy that researchers believe that it had been extinct for 80 million years. Little did they know, it's just very good at hiding. The frilled shark is a deep sea dwelling creature that was rediscovered in 2015 when 2 Australian fishermen caught it in their net. Frilled sharks kind of look like an eel, a shark, and a hairbrush kind of had a baby. It has a long, slender body that slithers through the water in a very serpenty way. It earns its name due to the 6 gills it has on either side that fan out in an unusual way. But the really scary part is how many teeth they have. They have over 300 mini daggers in their mouth, angled backwards like hooks so they latch onto their prey like Velcro. It is one of the few creatures on Earth to be considered a living fossil because it happens to be the only one of its kind. It has no other relatives, which if you're someone who doesn't like their in-laws, not really a bad thing, I guess. Number 9, massive amphipods. If you love jumbo shrimp, then oh boy, this would be a treat. Massive amphipods have been found in the trench. They kind of look like massive shrimp, which is a direct result of a phenomenon called giantism. The massive crustaceans can grow to over a foot long in the Challenger Deep, while the ones closest to the surface only reach about 3 centimeters. The reason they have gotten so large is a part of their strategy to help them survive the immense pressure of being a deep sea survivor. A group of molecules called Abyssal were found, and they help stabilize proteins against hydrostatic pressure. This helps them survive and could have a hand in helping them grow to be so large. Number 8, glass amoebas. In order to live that far down into the ocean, there are going to be 3 main things that you'll have to overcome: lack of light, freezing temperatures, and a lot of pressure. Therefore, intense survival skills are required. Scientists were shocked to find Foraminifera, a kind of amoeba, surviving down in Marianas Trench, but with some alterations. This kind of organism is found all over the world, but usually they build hard shells for themselves out of calcium carbonate. Down in the trench, the intense pressures dissolve these minerals, leading them to instead build a kind of glass house. They have adapted to use proteins, organic polymers, and even sand, which is made from silicon dioxide, which forms a kind of pressure-proof glass shell. A specific kind of foraminifera called xenophyphores have taken this one step further and glue sand, casts of shells, and microbial skeletons to their feces, which essentially makes a pressure-proof shell to live in. Gotta do what you gotta poo, do. Number 7, the Barreleye fish. This fish looks like Pixar teamed up with Tim Burton and made this fish up. It looks like an animation floating in the water. Nothing makes sense. Someone once said to me that if you've thought about it, chances are someone's done it or that it exists. I imagine that's untrue for most things, but I've definitely thought about what it could be like to have a see-through body, and this fish brought that thought to life, so who knows. The Barreleye fish has a head that is entirely see-through. It was originally presumed that they only had tunnel vision because any specimens collected would die before they reached the surface and their head would collapse. But now scientists are able to confirm that they actually rotate their eyes to look up through a fluid-filled shield, which is their head, to check out prey above them. They also have fins specifically adapted to allow the creature to hover frozen in place. Their eyes are also designed to capture light just enough to see silhouettes of their prey, so they have really incredible eyes. Weird. They look so pretty though. I like them. Number 6, Benthocodon. The thing that fascinates me the most about the creatures in the Mariana Trench is their size and appearance. Why? The water pressure at the bottom of the trench is about 8 tons per square inch, about 60,000 pounds per square inch. You'd think to be able to stand that pressure you'd have to be like Godzilla or something, but that's not the case. It's close to the exact opposite. The Benthocodon is a deep sea jelly that is entirely opaque and floats around in a deep red hue, pretty delicate and really small. The opaque bell serves as a way of hiding its food in case their bioluminescent lunch signals other predators. It has over 1,500 tentacles, and despite its little size and delicate flesh, it can survive the immense pressure of the deep. So figure that one out.
In our number 5 spot today, we have human mercury pollution. It was once believed that methyl mercury was mostly produced in the top few hundred meters of the ocean, which would have limited the mercury bioaccumulation because it was thought that the fish who make their home in the deep sea would have a very limited opportunity to ingest the methyl mercury. But a recent discovery has shown that this is just not true. According to 2 separate studies which were presented at the Goldschmidt Geochemistry Conference, there is clear evidence of the presence of both man-made and natural methyl mercury, which is quite toxic. This means that since this is spreading to the absolute depths of the Mariana Trench, the pollution is turning out to be much more widespread than what was once thought. They know that it is coming from the mercury in the upper ocean because of some sort of isotope evidence. The reason this discovery is important is because when mercury reaches the depths of the sea, it is turned into methyl mercury, the super toxic one, by tiny microbes. From there it gets eaten by small crustaceans, who then get eaten by fish, who then get eaten by bigger fish, and so on and so forth, and then it gets into our food web, which is dangerous for both humans and animals. It is unclear exactly what is going to happen with this information, but I guess it's good to have the whole picture in order to make the best, most educated decisions.
At number 4, we have Urethane plasticus. As we learned earlier, the Mariana Trench has not gone untouched by plastics. Well, back in 2014, scientists discovered a new species at 6,900 meters below, and the tiny crustacean was found to already have ingested some of Earth's plastic. Therefore, they gave it the name Urethane plasticus. With the support of the World Wildlife Foundation in analyzing the newly discovered species, scientists found a 6.5 millimeter large piece of large microfiber made up of 80% PET in its body. PET is a substance found in a variety of commonly used household items such as water bottles and workout clothes. Now, it's also found in deep sea wildlife, so much that we're naming deep sea creatures after plastics. This one is alarming because in the deepest parts of our planet that we know the least about, even less than space, we're still finding humans making their mark before humans even get there themselves. Yikes. Let's hope we don't have to start naming species Rubberus americanus or even Coca-Cola soft drinkus.
In our number 3 spot today, we have ocean sediment. Okay, there's sediment in all of our oceans, so this one definitely doesn't seem like it should be on this list, but the Mariana Trench sediment is unique because of its extreme depth. While there are of course large fish who eat other fish, what do the small fish and living creatures who don't eat other fish eat? Since there's no plants, that is why researchers collected samples of the sediment that lays on the floor of the Mariana Trench, to see what it is made out of, to see what the heck these guys are eating. As it turns out, if the organisms aren't eating chemicals, they're eating the leftovers from the fish that live closer to the surface of the ocean. These leftovers float down to the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, which is referred to as sea snow, and that is what becomes the meal for the smallest creatures living in the trench. Kind of gross when you think about it, but I'm happy for them.
Coming in at number 2, we have scalding hot water. That's right, just like Katy Perry, the Mariana Trench is hot and cold. At the deepest spot on Earth where basically no sunlight can get through, you would expect that the water was extremely cold, right? Wrong. Well, okay, maybe kind of right. The water usually stays between 34 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit, but also wrong. The water at the bottom of the Mariana Trench can also get scalding hot. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, there are many different hydrothermal vents, and the water that erupts out of these vents can reach temperatures of 700 degrees Fahrenheit, which is enough to scald anyone swimming down there. But fortunately, the pressure is way too high for anyone to actually swim down there, so that won't be happening anytime soon. That being said, for those that decide to dive deep down there, make sure that the deep sea sub you're in is not only pressurized, but also has an AC, because you don't want to cook like a boiled lobster.
In our number 1 spot today, we have giant amphipods. I will never not be fascinated by these things, so here we are again with more giant amphipod facts. Amphipods are little crustaceans that can be found in most waters on Earth, and they're kinda like shrimp. The Mariana Trench variety are absolutely shocking compared to the amphipods we are used to, and that is because they are like the Shaquille O'Neal of shrimps. They're huge! These guys can be found 35,797 feet or 10,911 meters deep in the trench, and while most amphipods are like 2 to 3 centimeters or about an inch long, these guys are a whopping 34 centimeters or just over 13 inches long. Like, what? A scientist explained that the discovery is a bit like finding a foot-long cockroach, and I have to say that the surprise may be the same, but I would rather find a huge shrimp than a huge cockroach any day. Before the discovery of these guys, researchers didn't even know that amphipods could grow this large, so it's safe to say that they certainly were not expecting this discovery.
Starting us off at number 10, we have sweet wrappers. Some of you might be confused and not know what that is, and if you are one of those people, they are more commonly known as candy wrappers, or trash, or even rubbish, or even garbage. I think you get it now. Anyway, along with that other plastic bag that we talked about in the first video, candy wrappers and tons of other human garbage were found in the depths of the Marianas Trench. The deepest spot on Earth is still not untouched by humans. This is a sad discovery that scientists were not thrilled about, but it was also a huge wake-up call too. So let's continue to be careful with our trash and where we put it. The plastic bag was one thing, but when I found out that that was just the beginning of the human trash that they found down there, that was a little upsetting. So stop eating sweets and candy. I'm just kidding. I know we pretty much can't do that, but just be careful where we put our garbage.
In our number 9 spot today we have sea pigs. These guys are a genus of sea cucumber, but they have these little tube-like legs, which is why they look super weird. Not that regular sea cucumbers look exceptionally normal, but these ones look even weirder than the regular ones. They like to live on the seafloor where they move through the sediment searching for their next meal. They eat by extracting tiny little particles of organic matter that have fallen from closer to the surface of the ocean down to the mud on the seafloor. They're like the best little Roombas. Sea pigs tend to measure somewhere around 15 centimeters or 4 to 6 inches long, and they live at a depth of somewhere between 1,200 to 5,000 meters deep in the sea. These guys have their own special little defense mechanism, and that is how their skin carries a natural poison, which would make them a less than ideal meal for their predators. It is quite imperative that these guys stay in their deep sea habitat because they are specifically built for that, and when brought up closer to the surface, they disintegrate.
Coming in at our number 8 spot, we have robots. Say, what? Are the AIs finally taking over? Are aliens actually just ancient robots like the Autobots and Decepticons? What is going on down there? Well, none of those that we know of, but the reason why we have been able to search and discover new areas of our oceans at such great depths is because scientists and researchers have started using robots, or more commonly known as rovers down at the bottom of the ocean. Just like the rovers we use on the moon and Mars, these underwater rovers can go where humans cannot, as well as retrieve materials that we would never be able to retrieve by ourselves. So as nervous as I am about the robots taking over, I have to tip my hat to them in this regard. So thanks, robo dudes.
In our number 7 spot today we have the Medusa. This fancy pants jellyfish came as quite a surprise during a robotic exploration of the Mariana Trench in 2016. What at first looked like some sort of alien spacecraft turned out to be a new unidentified species of jellyfish. At a first sight, this jelly had its tentacles splayed out as if it was ready to catch some prey. Apparently the tentacles act as a sort of netting to ensnare and then subdue their potential prey, but this jelly quickly calmed down and continued floating on by. This guy was found near the Daikoku Seamount at a depth of 3,700 meters. The really interesting thing about this jelly is in its bell. While the bell itself is translucent, inside are glowing red and yellow bulbs of light. The glowing bulbs of light really do give it an otherworldly appearance, and it is simply amazing to look at.
At number 6, we have a retired US Navy officer. Yeah, you heard me. Victor Vescovo is a retired US Navy officer and is one of the 70 people on Earth who have earned the Explorer's Grand Slam title. After Vescovo retired from the Navy, he became a private equity investor with a humongous interest in exploring the wildest places on Earth. He has completed the 7 summits exploring the highest points on Earth from each continent, and most recently completed the 5 Deeps expedition, where he visited the 5 deepest points on Earth, one of them being, of course, the Marianas Trench. In 2019, and the expedition known as the Challenger Deep. Vescovo and his team visited the deepest point on Earth during that expedition at 11 kilometers below the ocean's surface and earned Guinness World Records for their explorations. Vescovo helped fund to hire the amazing team he had on board, as well as to build the latest high-tech submarine to reach such depths. They were at an area of ocean that is 1,000 times the pressure of the surface. Big ouch. So if you want to get deep, I suggest you take Victor Vescovo with you.
Down in the Mariana Trench, there's something lurking that isn't a fish, isn't a squid, and honestly, doesn't even look like it should be alive. It's called a xenophyophore, which is basically a massive deep-sea amoeba. Scientists describe them as giant single-celled organisms that can grow up to 4 inches across. Think about that for a second. One cell the size of your palm. They absorb and trap particles in their environment, forming an outer shell made of whatever junk is floating around. Lead, uranium, mercury. If it's toxic, there's a good chance these things are covered in it. Scientists think their ability to thrive in extreme environments makes them important players in deep-sea ecosystems, but they're also basically living biohazards. One study from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography found they're, quote, highly resistant to heavy metal contamination, but they may also help indicate pollution levels in deep-sea trenches, which is kind of cool. Here's another crazy thing though. Xenophyophores are capable of regenerating even if you cut them apart. They can pull themselves back together, kind of like a deep-sea version of the Thing. Back in 2017, Australian researchers were dragging a net through the deep waters near the Mariana Trench when they pulled up something that just looked wrong. It had no eyes, no visible mouth, just a smooth, pale body with a weird, wrinkled texture. At first, scientists weren't even sure what they were looking at, but after some examination, they realized it was a species of cusk eel, one that hadn't been seen in over a century. The official name is Typhlonus nasus, aka the faceless cusk. Now, is it actually faceless? Well, yes and no. It has a mouth, it just isn't where you'd expect. Instead of being on where its face should be, it's found on the underside of its body. It doesn't have eyes though. Since it lives at depths of over 13,000 feet, where it's pitch black 24/7, eyesight is pretty much useless. Instead, the faceless cusk eel uses vibrations and chemical signals to detect its prey. Dr. Tim O'Hara, who was leading the expedition that rediscovered the eel, described it as, quote, probably the strangest deep-sea fish we've collected. And considering they also pulled up spiky sea cucumbers and bizarre carnivorous sponges on that same trip, that's really saying something. Nuclear explosives tests from the 50s and 60s didn't just leave their mark on the land and the atmosphere, they also made it all the way down to the deepest parts of the ocean. Researchers analyzing deep-sea crustaceans found something very alarming: high levels of carbon-14, a radioactive isotope released by nuclear explosions. Some of these creatures live more than 35,000 feet below the surface, in a place humans have never directly impacted. Dr. Ning Wang, who led a study on this, explained, the bomb carbon has reached the deepest oceanic ecosystems, indicating the strong influence of humanity on Earth, end quote. In other words, the effects of nuclear weapons have literally seeped into parts of the planet we thought were untouched. What's even stranger is how fast it happened. The radioactive carbon showed up in deep-sea trenches just a few decades after the tests, meaning there's some kind of rapid biological conveyor belt moving surface contaminants straight to the ocean floor, which is then seeping into the food chain. Tiny creatures at the bottom of the trench are absorbing bomb carbon and bigger animals are eating them. In 2021, researchers exploring the depths of the Mariana Trench were scanning the ocean floor when they saw something that made them jump. It wasn't a fish, it wasn't a shark, it was just a tentacle, a very long tentacle stretching out of the darkness. There was no visible body attached to it, just a single ghostly limb. Deep-sea biologist Dr. Alan Jameson, who reviewed the footage, admitted that nobody really knows what it belonged to. Best guess, it could be an unknown species of big fin squid, which have massive spindly arms that can stretch over 20 feet long. These squids are so rare that fewer than 20 sightings have ever been recorded, and even those were blurry, distant shots, but there's no definitive proof that this is what it was, which means As of right now, there may be something massive in the Mariana Trench that we haven't identified yet. In 2020, marine biologists identified a new species of amphipod living in one of the deepest parts of the ocean, the Mariana Trench. They named it Eurythensis plasticus, and that's because when scientists analyzed its body, they found plastic inside it. Specifically, they discovered a common material used in plastic bottles and food packaging. So even in the most remote and extreme environment on Earth, plastic pollution has again made its way into the food chain. The discovery was made by researchers from Newcastle University who were studying deep sea amphipods, tiny shrimp-like creatures that scavenge for food on the ocean floor.
Starting us off at number 10 is a plastic bag. That's right, folks, even the deepest spot on Earth isn't free of man's worst creation ever: single-use plastics. During one of the deepest dives ever recorded, famous underwater explorer Victor Vescovo traveled 7 miles below the ocean's surface down to the Mariana Trench. While down there, Vescovo and his crew discovered tons of new and interesting things, but not all of them were cool. He reported that he also found a plastic bag and even some candy wrappers down at the deepest place on Earth. So that's cool. Folks, I don't think it's a hard concept to understand, but please don't litter. Things like plastic bags were not made to help out anyone but ourselves. These cause a great danger to our wildlife all around the world, and if we have to use these materials, just please dispose of them properly. No one else should have to put up with your trash except for the garbage man.
In our number 9 spot today, we have the fact that life exists. The first time anyone ever went on a deep dive into the Mariana Trench, no one was exactly expecting to find signs of life in the extreme environment of the deep sea. So it was quite a shock when they found out it was absolutely teeming with life. Because of the lack of sunlight, or really any light, in the Mariana Trench, you won't find any plant life or algae, but there are tons of living beings, from microorganisms to scary looking fish. All of the life in the trench has had to adapt in one way or another in order to live in this environment, whether that is naturally developing pressure-proof shells, or having insane eyesight that can catch even the faintest glimmer, or having other heightened senses that can help detect prey or predators. All of these special adaptations help us understand more about how life in the deep sea evolved, but some can even be used to help us advance scientifically and medically. It is no small feat to head down to the Mariana Trench, but the more we can discover down there, the better.
At number 8, we have Jupiter-like microbes. Say what? Back in 2012, during the Deep Sea Challenge expedition, researchers found these fuzzy mats of bacteria clinging to the rocks at the bottom of the trench. Usually one of the first things scientists look for in the harshest places on Earth are any signs of life possible. It helps them understand how life can be possible in parts of the world or even the universe that don't operate like Earth's habitable places. When scientists explored the Serena deep part of the trench with a robotic lander, they found evidence of a thriving microbial community down and around the deep sea rocks. These microbes appear to feed off of the chemicals produced with the sea when the sea floor rocks react with the water. Because they don't rely on the falling of the marine snow, it raises questions and possible hypotheses for scientists that maybe this is how some life forms exist in the farthest reach of our universe, such as Jupiter and Saturn's moons.
In our number 7 spot today, we have the Daikoku Seamount. This seamount is located within the Mariana Arc and was fairly recently found to be hydrothermally active. So basically, it is a functioning underwater volcano, which is super cool. That is not even the cool and unexpected discovery I want to talk about today. During the submarine Ring of Fire expedition in 2006, it was realized that this seamount happens to also feature a pool of liquid sulfur. That might not seem like the most amazing thing, but it is definitely very cool. Firstly, the way it looks is absolutely insane because it has gases rising off of it which appear as smoke, but like smoke underwater. I don't know the science behind it, but all I know is that it looks like nothing I've ever seen before. The next reason why this is super cool is because of the fact that this is almost never seen here on Earth, and the only other time we found a comparable pool of sulfur to this one has been on Jupiter's moon Io.
At number 6, we have the Mariana snailfish. At 8,143 meters below the surface, scientists discovered a new kind of fish they call the Mariana snailfish. This is a white translucent fish that has broad wing-like fins and an eel-like tail and slowly glides near the bottom of the ocean floor. You can also see its liver from the outside of its body. Ew. Whoa. While this is the deepest they have ever found an actual fish, researchers don't believe there is much more swimming below that. The amount of pressure is so high that they don't believe any fish is chemically able to withstand the destabilizing effects of its proteins at the depth. So the Mariana snailfish may just be the deepest dwelling fish on the entire planet, which I'm sure we are all hoping for some large, weird, space-looking like deep sea monster, but for now we will just have to settle for a snailfish. It's okay, little guy, I still love ya.
Next on the list is the deep sea hatchetfish. This fish looks pretty cool, but also incredibly strange. Thank God these things are so small, because just imagine that horrifying face, but like the size of a whale. They look like frowning ghosts. The deep sea hatchetfish is a small fish that lives in the deep, dark parts of the ocean, like the Mariana Trench. It has a very unique hatchet-shaped body and a hatchet-like metallic color, which helps it blend in with its surroundings. And they glow. The hatchetfish can control how bright it glows though. It uses its bioluminescence both for communicating with other fish and for attracting prey. Let's talk about the fang-tooth fish next. Fang-tooths are some of the scariest looking creatures you'll find in the Mariana Trench. They're small, but their teeth are absolutely massive compared to the size of their bodies. These fish have a very simple body design, a long cylindrical shape that's built for life in the deep. But what really makes them stand out is their huge, sharp teeth. In fact, their teeth are so big that when they close their mouths, the teeth don't fit all the way inside, so they just kind of stick out. Aside from their terrifying appearance though, these fish aren't very dangerous. They feed on other small fish and invertebrates that live in the deep ocean. Again, just glad these things are about 6 inches long instead of 6 feet. Some things are just too ugly to be any bigger than they are. No offense to the fang-tooths in the audience. Next on the list is the deep sea dragonfish. This creature is pretty incredible, partly because it's got some crazy bioluminescence going on. The dragonfish can produce its own light, which helps it in the pitch black depths where it lives. The light comes from these little organs called photophores that line its body. But what's even cooler is that the dragonfish has a big long chin with a light producing organ at the end of it. It uses this to lure prey right into its mouth. The dragonfish also has some seriously terrifying teeth. They look like something straight out of a monster movie. Again, might not be the biggest fish in the deep, but it definitely looks like one you'd want to avoid if you were swimming down there. Here are 3 words that don't sound very appealing placed right next to one another. Giant toxic amoebas, or GTAs. Scientists call them xenophyophores. How would you feel about running into a 4-inch long amoeba? Probably not great. These guys are found all over the Mariana Trench though, and they're huge for a reason. The extreme cold, insane pressure, and the complete lack of sunlight make the conditions perfect for these single-celled organisms to grow to pretty gigantic sizes. They're incredibly tough survivors. They've adapted to become super resistant to a bunch of harmful stuff that would kill pretty much anything else, including us humans. They can tolerate uranium, mercury, lead, and other dangerous substances which would be lethal to us. These toxic amoebas have been found at crazy depths of up to 6.5 miles or 10.6 kilometers underwater, and scientists wouldn't be shocked if they find more of them even deeper one day. And finally, we've got the Mariana snailfish, a species that was discovered in 2014 and holds the title for being the deepest living fish. It lives at nearly 27,000 feet below the surface, over 5 miles deep. The pressure down there is so intense that it would crush a human in seconds. This ghostly white fish looks soft and squishy, kind of cute, like it might even melt if you touched it, but somehow these things survive in one of the harshest, most unforgiving environments on Earth. The snailfish's body is incredibly adaptable, allowing it to survive where most other creatures wouldn't last a minute. Even though it looks delicate though, it's a top predator in its world, feasting on tiny crustaceans and other prey. Its flexible blob-like body lets it squeeze into tight spaces, hunting in places that other fish could never reach.
Starting us off at number 10 is the Barreleye fish. Now this fish isn't that creepy looking, I will admit, but it is a little gross and futuristic looking. Why? Because you can see directly inside its head. Since the Mariana Trench is so deep and dark, how the heck is a fish gonna see where it's going or what's around them? Answer: they're gonna make their own light. The Barreleye fish has a transparent head with 2 barrel-like eyes inside of its head that face upwards. This lets the fish see the silhouettes of its prey. How convenient. Scientists believe that its transparent head allows for the Barreleye fish to collect just a bit more light, which gives this fish just a bit more of an advantage advantage over its deep water competition. The Barreleye fish wasn't even known to humans until 1939, when one was pulled from its underwater home at 2,500 feet below the surface. Although they can't survive past a certain point as they are too used to the deep underwater pressure. Luckily, scientists now have high-tech underwater rovers that they can use to go learn more about the reproduction and life cycles of these strange fish. At number 9, we have the deep sea dragonfish. Any fish with the name dragon in it is sure to be a sight for sore eyes, literally. This fish has humongous teeth, a pretty ugly face, hashtag sorry not sorry, and is known to be a deep underwater assassin. These fish are 6 inches or 15 centimeters long and live at the depths of 6,000 to 7,000 feet. Like many of these deep water creatures, the dragonfish also has the highly sought after bioluminescent feature. Beneath its chin dangles a lighted barbell that is used to communicate with other fish as well as is used for camouflage when need be. Other fish mistaken the light bulb for another smaller fish or even prey of its own, only to be surprised that itself is the prey and that it's way too late. Chomp! Some dragonfish even have gained the ability to glow red. Some believe that the red glow is used to signal its deep water brethren, while others believe it to be a signal of the dragonfish about to pounce. Either way, a glowing red fish sounds terrifying to me no matter how big or small, so I'ma stay in the shallow end. At number 8, we have the deep sea hatchetfish. Why is it called a hatchetfish? Well, imagine if that hatchet in your garage had fins, eyes, gills, and could swim freely around the ocean. Then it would pretty much look like this guy. Or one of these guys, because believe it or not, there are over 40 different species of hatchetfish out there, and I'm sure there is more somewhere. These fish are the same size as the dragonfish, so they aren't that big, but they can be found at depths of 5,000 feet. Be careful though, these guys are also sneaky because they have that highly sought after bioluminescent feature and can camouflage themselves from predators quite easily as well. I mean, we won't see them often because of the depths that they live at, but that's okay, I'm not complaining. I like seeing the hatchet stay where it belongs. In my garage, safely kept away from the water and only taken out when having backyard campfires. And man oh man does that sound good right now. Coming in at number 7, we have comb jellies. They have a much more scientific name, but I think comb jellies is much more fun, and if you really care about the scientific name, I'll let you take a stab at it on your own. Anyway, these crazy light up alien-like fish can come in sizes from a few inches all the way up to 5 feet. Luckily, like their other jellyman cousin, the actual jellyfish, these guys don't have any stingers. But they will attack their own sometimes, so watch out for those underwater MMA matches between these guys. They swim through the ocean by swaying their comb teeth-like tentacles on the side of their body, and they are another sight for sore eyes, really. Just recently, the New York Times found a new way to continue researching these creatures by taking samples of their DNA from a process that is called environmental DNA sampling, where scientists collect snippets of DNA from fallen hair, skin, and mucus that the creatures shed into their environment underwater. It is said that the 200 known species could rise to 6 to almost 800 using this new system. I kinda would love some more, but can't deny that these creatures look totally out of this world, so props to the jellymans. At number 6, we have the sea devil anglerfish. So if a fish has the name dragon or devil in its name, you know it's one to probably look out for. Found deep in the Mariana Trench, probably from swimming up from hell, is the sea devil anglerfish. It has a crazy misshapen body, sorry to body shame, the razor-like teeth and fins, and teeth and eyes that can disappear just like that. Yeah, sounds like some demonic powers to me. Luckily for everyone on the planet, these fish aren't that big. Females are larger, and the biggest they can grow to be is 8 inches long, while males are only about 2 inches. It also has a bioluminescent bulb on top of its head that lures in prey before it even has a second to swim away. Now, does this sound familiar? Yeah, it should, because if you ever watched Finding Nemo, then this is the fish that Marlin and Dory almost got eaten by. So if you happen to be a superhuman and can swim at great depths to see these scary fish, in the words of Dory, just keep swimming.
The anglerfish. These are those super deep sea fish with the bioluminescent lures that hang in front of their mouths. In the Mariana Trench, various species of anglerfish have been found, and they're all pretty unsettling to look at. One of the strangest parts about certain species of anglerfish, though, is how they mate. Males are significantly smaller than females, and often have a completely different role in the reproductive process. When a male finds a female, he latches onto her body and eventually fuses with her, becoming this permanent reproductive partner. This allows the female to have a readily available mate, and this is very important because encounters with other anglerfish are rare. The deep sea environment they live in is just so sparse, so they gotta take what they can get. But let's talk about those jaws. They're huge, allowing them to consume prey much larger than themselves. Their jaws can also extend, and their stomachs can stretch, allowing them to engulf prey whole. And to top it off, anglerfish are known as ambush predators. Many of them are dark, helping them blend into the abyss and avoid being seen by prey and other predators. Next up, we have the vampire squid. These are really cool looking creatures. I think they may be my favorite type of squid, even though they're not actually squids. I'll get to that a bit later though. Anyway, pretty clear how these things got their name. It looks like it's wearing your classic Halloween-y vampire type cape. Batman squid would have also been a good nickname for these things. Like I said, despite their name, these things are actually not true squids. They're more closely related to octopus, and they belong to a distinct order of cephalopods called Vampiromorphidae. And they're the only living species found in this group. All the other creatures that were once in it are now extinct. The vampire squid has a gelatinous body covered in photophores, which can emit bioluminescent light. It also has webbing between its arms, which creates that kind of cloak-like appearance. This allows the squid to control its buoyancy. The coolest thing about vampire squids, though, are their defense mechanisms. They can turn themselves inside out, covering their bodies with spines, and this helps frighten off predators. Next on the list is the fang-toothed fish. You can clearly see how this thing got its name. This thing is horrifying. It's small, only reaching about 6 inches, but it has that fearsome set of jaws and a pair of dead white eyes, making for a pretty intimidating little creature. I'm sure it still wouldn't be fun being bit by one of these things. They're almost like zombie fish a little bit, the way their eyes look. Plus, those teeth are so large that the fang tooth can't actually close its mouth completely. They're disproportionately large compared to their body. Their dark coloration, usually a deep brown or black, allows them to blend into the darkness of the deep sea as well, making it easier, of course, for them to ambush their prey. As scary as they look, though, they're mostly feeding on smaller fish and zooplankton. An interesting thing about the fang tooth are their unique swim bladders. Unlike many fish which rely on their swim bladders for buoyancy, fang tooths have a reduced swim bladder, which helps them remain stable in the extreme pressures of the deep sea. This next one is actually pretty cool. Plastic-eating microbes. There are some really strange microbes living deep within the trench. Scientists have found some microbes able to survive deep in an environment with intense pressure and just pitch black darkness. One pretty remarkable discovery among these mysterious microbes is a type that actually has the ability to consume plastic. As wild as this is, it's actually a good thing because plastic pollution has become a pretty big environmental concern. Finding microbes that can break down plastic is kind of a good sign. It could potentially assist in reducing plastic waste in the ocean. Mariana Trench, reaching depths of over 36,000 feet, makes for pretty extreme challenges for life. The pressure at those depths is intense, equivalent to about 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. This goes to show how adaptable life can be in the most extreme environments. Finally, though, we have the deep sea dragonfish. This is a group of bioluminescent fish that lurk deep in the Mariana Trench, and what a horrifying looking creature it is. This thing looks like, that hallway monster in Hellraiser that runs along the wall? Reminds me of that. These guys have long fang-like teeth and elongated bodies, incredibly menacing, sort of like a piranha and a serpent fused together. These ones are also, again, bioluminescent, producing light through chemical reactions in their bodies. They use this bioluminescence not just to navigate the darkness of the depths, but to lure prey and communicate with each other. The light can be emitted from various parts of their bodies, helping them to camouflage against the faint light from above, making it easier to surprise unsuspecting fish. They also have an excellent sense of smell, which allows them to detect food from a distance. Once they identify their prey, they strike quickly, using their sharp teeth to capture and consume.